Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Big Picture Skiing podcast. Today's episode features a guy named Adarian Barr. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of struggling on how to introduce who this guy is or really the big impact he has had on my life, my understanding of skiing, and the way I view movement and just tackling concepts in general. So, you could call Adarian an inventor. You could call him an athlete. You could call him a teacher, a mentor. He's many things. But I really enjoy the way Adarian makes me think about things in general. Now today, we narrow down the topic to footbeds, feet, how the body works, and some of the concepts that Adarian teaches in his movement classes, in his new book that he recently wrote with Jen Pilotti. Now you'll find more about this in the episode, and I apologize at times for some dog barking. Adarian's dogs were really hungry, and at times they, express that, but please look past that. The information is really fascinating, and if you are a curious person, a curious mind, you love your skiing, you love movement, then I think you're going to learn some really important things in here. Adarian helped me really understand some important principles around pressure, compression, levers in the body, rotations, and gave me a sort of a sharper, keener eye with my analysis, my movement analysis of skiers and what is going on. I definitely credit some of my latest sort of ideas and thinking to what Adarian has sort of challenged my thinking with and put forward sort of questions and not given me answers. So I discover it for myself, and I'm truly grateful for that. Anyway, open your mind, delete things in you about for the moment, put them aside, put your beliefs aside, and get ready to hear Adarian talk about carbon insoles, arches of the feet, levers, rotation, and much, much more. This is a fascinating episode. I hope you enjoy it. And it opens the door to more questions as well as answers and leads you down a road of, as Adarian sort of puts it, curiosity. Be curious. So with that in mind, let's hear from Adarian Barr in today's Big Picture Skiing podcast. Adarian, I can remember you recommending carbon and fiber insoles to me quite a few years ago, about 3 years ago. And I ordered a pair from you, you sent them over, and I got to try them first in New Zealand on some really firm snow. And I was skeptical. I wasn't sure what I was going to feel, if I was going to feel anything, because the carbon fiber insole was pretty much flat. It was flexible.
Yeah.
But it had like a bump up sort of in under the forefoot area, in the middle of the forefoot.
Yeah.
So I went out and I skied. And I tell you what, I could notice what I felt was different was I felt that I had more pressure under the ski edge. So I could direct pressure. I could feel more pressure and sensations coming through the ski and my foot to my body. Yeah. And it felt easier to just edge my skis. Now, today I want to help people understand first about carbon fiber and the way you use this material. So do you want to just discuss maybe the properties of it? And because the ones you make are not stiff like a mountain bike shoe.
So the biggest thing that I had learned about, and I've been messing with carbon fiber for, at least 12 years now. Started messing with, because what happened is I've been making insoles since 2008. So I've been making insoles for like 15 years. And so I didn't, as you do things, you learn about more materials and things like that. But one of the first things I made was I used a wire, because the wire was flexible, and so I was making wires, and then I tried to encase the wire in carbon fiber. And then I said, well, why do I need the wire if I got the carbon fiber? So then the wire, and I'm like, the carbon fiber is good enough, But the whole thing about it was, why I was doing that was because I wanted some hard underneath my foot. There was really more responsive than the soft stuff underneath there. And the thing with the wire was thin, so you got a lot of pressure, so the feedback was really good. So And then once we put the carbon fiber on, we couldn't feel the wires anymore because carbon fiber was hard. And so you couldn't feel the wire. You could feel them, but you couldn't feel them. And so we go, well, I don't need the wires anymore. And so what I started doing was I would make a wire mold and press into the carbon fiber. So I still have the rails and everything. Because one of my original goals was, I always thought about horseshoes, about, why don't we do people's feet like we do horseshoes? Because you can get a horseshoe to make a horse do anything you want it to do. Gallop a certain way, march a certain way, something like we should be doing the same thing. So that's when I had the wire, and I would trace the wire into the carbon fiber because it would hold. Once I take the wire away, it would hold up and stuff like that. And I still get the same effect without the wire anymore, And so that was the first part. But the biggest thing was like I said, carbon fiber is hard, and so a lot of times when
I'm going to jump in there. Hard. You got it for the hard property, not the stiffness property.
Not the stiff property. Yeah, you need to stack carbon fiber on stacking carbon. I mean, it's like you see somebody with a prosthetic leg. That's probably like 10 layers of carbon fiber. You need that many layers of carbon fiber. One layer of carbon fiber is not going to be like that. One layer of carbon fiber is going to be really flexible, but you need to stack them and stack them and stack them and stack them. That's what people are used to. Or carbon fiber takes on the properties of something that is a part of. So if I take a steel pipe and wrap carbon fiber around it, it's really going to be hard, but it's reinforcing that steel pipe now. Or if I take a piece of cardboard and put it on that, the cardboard won't bend anymore. It just takes on whatever, So I don't attach the carbon fiber to anything. I leave it by itself. It's not attached to anything. It's by itself, so it maintains its own property, which means it's hard. And there's some words out there called modules, which means how much it bends or breaks and all that kind of stuff. But that's not for here. But the biggest thing is, like I said, is people two things composite. So let's think about the word composite. And the composite is just that we're going to combine some materials. Carbon fiber, Kevlar are fabrics. They start off as fabrics. And then I'm gonna add a resin. It's like fiberglass, it's a fabric. And then I'm gonna add a resin to it to reinforce the fabrics. So that's what I call it a composite. Just add something to it. But really, Kevlar is a fabric. Carbon fiber is a fabric, thread and things like that. So what ends up happening once you add the resin, like this here would be Kevlar. And as you know, as you can sample the Kevlar up, it's not the same. It's soft. Really soft and everything like that. But what does Kevlar do? It absorbs. That's why they make it out of bulletproof vest. You stack a couple of those things together, it's gonna, if you put a carbon fiber plate in front of you and take a bullet, it's gonna, and it ain't gonna be fun. It ain't gonna be, So that's the one thing. So like both of these, this is Kevlar, this is carbon fiber. Both are composites. But as you know, it's like I said, the Kevlar, totally different thing. It's soft. So you take the carbon fiber and it's hard, but it's still flexible. Not as flexible as this, because if I do this with carbon fiber, it'll break. It has a point to where it can bend so far before it breaks. The threads will actually break. And same thing. If you bend it back and forth, 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 it's just like a thread string too. It's going to break at some point in time. That's just what's going to happen. But what people are used to seeing carbon fiber for is, like you said, on bikes or high-end cars, things like that.
Yes.
And everything, like BMW they have a carbon fiber factory. They use so much of it. They have their own factory of carbon fiber. They don't have to buy it from anybody. They just making the stuff. But once again, they make those parts because they want to make them light and rigid. That's a different story. I don't want the rigid. I don't want the stiffness. I want the rigidness. I want the lightness, and I want it to be hard.
So now I'm gonna help people understand some context here. You are an athlete. You're an athlete, and so you were going down this road of insoles because you were trying to get more performance from the athletic things you did. You loved basketball, but you track and field stuff, and you coached that to a pretty darn high level. And let me get this right. How fast was your fastest 100 meters?
When I was young, back in my prime, 10-3.
Yeah, 10-3.
That was fast. Yeah, I was fast.
Yeah, you could dunk a basketball.
Yeah. I could dunk up until I was 40. And
and how tall are you?
58 now, 5'10".
And okay. So there's some context on the kind of person you are, what you're searching for to get more out of your body. So you're looking, is that right? You came to carbon fiber and insoles again with the horseshoe thing because you're trying to get more out of your body, make your body work better. So why hardness? Why not softness? Why not support
well,
to do what you're trying to do?
Well, it's even like, for me, it's about fast responses. Fast things to respond, the better I can be. That's like, I remember when I used to ski. I wasn't good, but I could, and everything. And then I learned to snowboard. I'm like, oh, you can go faster. And I could like, I'm like, this is it. Cause skiing, I was always afraid, like I would go over the edge or something like that. So but when I got to a snowboard, I'm like, oh, got it, But it was always about speed, going faster. I want to go faster. I always want to go faster, and even like I work on cars, things like that. I want to go faster. I always want to. It has to go fast. That's all I care about is going faster. And so the thing with softness is how the body works. The body works on pressure. A lot of times people think muscle, but it's really pressure that the body knows very well. It knows where your weight is based on where pressure is on the foot, where this is happening, where that's happening. The more pressure it feels, the more you can get, which is the input, the better the output's going to be, or the more output you're going to get from it. But the thing about it is, when you use cushion makes the surface area spread out too much. You lose pressure. Carbon fiber is hard. It doesn't make the pressure doesn't spread out. So that way you get pressure and it stays hard. It's a fast response. Even like on one of the insoles that we actually, like one of the custom ones we make, we put these little, we call pilings in it. And so we really sitting on pressure now. We really sitting on pressure. These areas we want to sit on, that's where the pressure is going to be at. The rest of the area will have very little pressure, and I want input from those areas and things like that, And the thing about it, why this here, because once again, the carbon fiber is going to bite down into, it's going to, whatever soft material you got it, whether it's plastic, whatever it is, carbon fiber is going to bite down into it and eat it up and settle. And that's what you want. Even people talk about plastic. Plastic is pliable still. It's soft still. It melts still. It moves still. So your response is not fast enough because you're waiting for the plastic to deform and then reform and going about your business. So with carbon fiber, it takes care of that problem. That's for sure.
So on that's surprising to me, skiing in New Zealand on that snow with a layer of carbon fiber, not directly under my foot. It was under a thin layer, like a little slim insole. I felt more pressure, yet mind-blowing. It took me a while to understand this. I thought my boot board and my hard plastic boot, which, I feel is really hard, carbon fiber is like, how much harder is it than that? And then how can we feel like, can the human body feel the difference between those hardnesses?
Well, I mean, that's like anything else. What people, is, I have to mention my book real quick, just because there's a section of the book about stress, strain, and deformation. And that's what people don't realize is that the stress, when you say stress, if you just say the word stress, that incorporates any type of force. You don't have to designate it vertical, horizontal, rotational, torsional. Stress is any type of force. And based on the stress, you can get a strain, which is trying to resist that force. Based on the strain, you can get deformity or movement, however you want to look at it. So when you get to plastic, and then the word elastic, stretches out and compress. One thing about plastic is that it's going to what they call stretch out. It's going to move. Even steel, but just it does a different way. But it's going to stretch out, and that's what you feel. You feel the plastic stretching out under the stress that you just put it under. The strain is that it's going to give some, and so that becomes a thing. Well, carbon fiber, guess what? Doesn't give. And I think what people don't realize is how little movement you need. We're talking about the body can detect, millimeters of movement. It detects it. I mean, that's like you get a grain of pebble underneath your, like a small grain of sand. You feel it. It doesn't. If the dirt moves a little bit, you feel it. We are that sensitive to stuff. We have to be to stay upright, And I think that's the other part, even, and this is, one of the things that happens is, like I said, once you get on the carbon fiber, I won't even use the hardest one I got. Like I said, this here, like if I use this here, like this here, this is a couple of layers of carbon fiber, and it, like I said, it has a whole different, versus like this here is like one layer of carbon fiber. It has a whole, but it's still hard. So if I like I said, this thing here, see, that's what's going to happen. No matter what happens, you put it's going to do these things here. So then
that was just so people listening, that you had a boot board of a ski boot, and you showed how there's plastic, it sort of deforms.
Yeah. So now you put the carbon fiber on it, and even if it deforms, it doesn't matter because you're riding on the carbon fiber now. See, that's what you so this here will move away from your foot. This here stays in contact with your foot. That's the difference. So, and then as you press on it, like I said, the boot, the board, it could bend, but see what happens? The carbon fiber now says, okay, we got this. Without the carbon fiber, it bends it's soft again. And then you get the waviness of it. You don't want that. The carbon fiber says, oh, we got this now. If I put something even a little bit, just a little bit hard on it, all of a sudden, this will just flex. Because the carbon fiber is now in control of it. It's in control,
Yep.
So I think that's what, when we talk about hardness, it's just a matter of now all of a sudden the carbon fiber is controlling these flex points that the plastic has no control over because it just can't really take the strains too much for it, and it's going to deform too much. Yeah, and like they don't have to move just a millimeter. If it moves a millimeter, you're gonna know it. You're gonna know it.
So then that probably comes into, you're not making a supportive insole out of this. And so can you speak to like the arches of the feet?
That
area. Because as we were talking about quickly before the show, that in the ski industry, it is pretty well known that most people think you need a supportive footbed, and you need one. And if you have one, you're going to ski with better performance and it's going to help the body work better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So coming from that point of view, what's some thoughts you have?
Well, one of the things that underneath the arch of the foot is probably the most sensitive area in the body. It doesn't like anything underneath it. It's not anything underneath it. So even though this is flat, guess what it's going to become? Arch support, because it's going to flex up into it. It's going even though this is flat, it's going to become arch support because you're going to flex up into that system. It's funny how people say, I got something, but no, that's support. So then if you take
it's similar to like if you stood on like soft, spongy ground.
Right, it's going to form to what? It's going to form.
Okay.
Yeah. And so even if then you take that, and then you say you take, and like I said, this is going to move, and then you take that and you put cushion on top of it. Well, the cushion is definitely in the arch now. And so basically at this point in time, you basically have lifted your foot off the ground. So you're not in full contact with the ground anymore to do things that you need to, because now you got pressure, in one area really, in this little circular areas where the pressure's at, and where I need it at toes, where I maybe need it on the heels, where I may need it at on the fifth metatarsal. I don't have pressure anymore. Basically, just putting the jack underneath your foot and jacking it up off the ground. So that becomes what's happening. Even when you have cushion, people try to make it so the more forming the insole is, the more you really just jacking your foot up. And so you don't want that. You really want nothing underneath, and I don't know if, like say on this one here, even on these two, if on the three that I pulled out, I don't think people will notice this here, but, we cleared out that area, we're clearing out.
Yeah, he's showing an insole where he's basically where the arch would be. There's nothing.
Nothing. You don't want anything. Like I said, you only need a millimeter of movement. And so anything underneath there is going to interfere with the foot because it's a sensitive area. It's going to interfere with it, And so then people will start doing funny things. Like they will actually start to avoid it. They will actually start cupping their foot just to. And you start doing some things just to like, ooh, that's not.
And so, why don't we need arch support? Why do you think there's this whole, like, we got to support the arch? Like that's a thing.
It's a thing, if you look at nature, two things in nature, triangles are pretty strong and arches are pretty strong, but they work differently. So if I get a triangle, and this is where that word, stress, strain, deformation coming at, compression and tension and things like that. So if I get a triangle and I press down on the top, the sides will go ahead and flex. They're gonna go ahead and flex. And then but the bottom is gonna stretch out. So the sides will compress, the bottom will lengthen.
Stretch out, yep.
So because of the flex. So see how that works with a triangle, you push down on the top, I get compression and I get extension, or whatever. Tension is the best word for it, because tension means it's going to stretch out. So I get compression and tension. That is just how triangles work. With an arch, you don't want the bottom, the end points to lengthen out. You don't want tension there. So when I get compression on an arch, I want the endpoints to come closer together. If the endpoints come closer together, arch holds shape. And so, like, people talk about flat-footed people versus, somebody with a higher arch. The difference is this here. The load pushing out horizontally, the lower the arch, the greater the load is that push out. The higher the arch, the less the load pushes out. That's the difference between flat-footed people, and they have a greater load pushing out. So they windlass mechanism has to really work to make sure those endpoints don't go away from each other. Somebody with a high arch, and windlass mechanism doesn't have to work as hard, because the vertical or the horizontal thrust going out is not as heavy or not as strong as somebody with a higher arch. It's just that simple, So and people, like I said, people don't understand, like, the windlass mechanism. How once your toe flexes, it doesn't matter whether I flex my toe up or where my heel lifts off the ground. I'm into a windlass mechanism position. Once that happens, it's already pulling the heel. It doesn't pull the ball of the foot towards the heel. It pulls the heel towards the ball of the foot. It just made the endpoints closer. So because the endpoints are closer now, that arch is it's stronger now. It's going to handle a better compressive load now. So I think that's what people miss out on. They don't understand. So now I'm going to put some underneath. So think about this here. I may put some underneath me that's now interfering with that. It may tighten it up too soon. So now, because all I got to do is push up on it, it's going to pull the heel. If you push up on it, it's going to pull the heel. So now I'm having the heel pulled in, but I don't need it. So now I have another problem. I'm getting something I don't want, because now pushing up is going to pull that in. I don't want that to be pulled in right now. I don't need it right now. Like I said, if you're standing around not doing anything, you don't need an arch. But as soon as you move,
and we don't need necessarily, like, think about skiing where I'm not rolling on to my big toe, like rolling through running or whatever.
Right.
I don't necessarily need the windlass mechanism. The arches can still work without.
They still, because they still going to work. Yes, they're going to work. They work. They still going to work. One of the things, because even this here, let me bring in my little gadgets and everything. I don't think I brought the rubber. Yeah, I brought the rubber band. But one of the things that people forget too is this here. Part of the arch structure is the bone is already curved into an arch. That bone's never going to flatten out. Never is that bone going to flatten out. And you have these series of joints here, So I have this fifth metatarsal. Let me go to first metatarsal. I won't talk about it. I'm just talking about the first one. But I got the first metatarsal is already formed in this shape. It's not going to flatten out the bone unless it breaks, and you don't want that to happen. And then I have this joint right here, and then I have this joint in front of it. And then I have this toe with a joint, and so forth and so forth. So for the majority of the arch, it's already formed. It's never ever gonna. So when people talk about a flat foot, it's not that it's flat. This bone may not be as highly structured, and so this bone may be a little bit lower. And so this bone's a little bit lower, then the rest of it may be a little bit lower, and so now the endpoints, like I said, because now all of a sudden the other connections are going to press out and stuff like that. So I need the windlass mechanism to help me out. But for the most part, if you look at the structure of the foot, and that's the thing is like when people show an anatomical foot, they normally show without the structures, without the soft tissue, without the connecting tissue. They just show bones, and then they press the bones all over and back. Look at that. No, that doesn't happen like that. You got connecting tissue to hold all these things. No, it doesn't. And they say, well, we got 33 joints, because we got 33 joints. It's supposed to be, and okay, let's look at this here. Take your fibula. It's a joint, right? It's connected to the tibia, right? Is anybody saying that thing's supposed to be flexible? You got 3 joints in your head. Is anybody saying those supposed to be flexible? So see what I'm saying? It doesn't hold. Just because you have a joint don't mean it's supposed to be flexible. It's a connecting point. It's just a connecting point, And so that's what people get into. We got this flex. No, because I got all these things that are tying it together. I got all these little, and then they say, people say it's a spring, and then you go, okay, let's call it a spring. Let's just say it's a spring. Let's go with that. Then I actually ask them, what's the spring rate? They go, what do you mean? I said, well, a spring has a spring rate, which means, 100 pounds per inch, which means 100 pounds to compress an inch. Another 100 pounds to compress another inch. Another 100 pounds, it'd be 3 inches now. It's like 300 pounds. What are we working with? How much do I need to put on this before it compresses, and how much, So you get into these things, but for the most part, really, on a simple level, the arch supports you. That's it. It supports you. It supports your movement, supports body weight. And the thing about it, it can support you in many ways. The arch still needs to hold up when your heels off the ground and you're rolling over towards it. That arch still is supporting you. When it's on, it can support you in all these ways that you want it to support you. It's just support the weight. That's all, you know. But we done made it much more than what it should have been in the first place. It's just.
What are your thoughts then on people that, you know, someone walks in and their feet, you know, they would be classically termed by podiatrists as pronated. So
I don't even use that word.
Yeah, I know you don't use that word, but you know, that rolled in, people listening will understand. It's like, oh yeah, I have that foot. That's why I have a footbed that pushes me out of that position. Can you speak to that? And do those people need a supported footbed, or are there other things they can do? They just haven't realized the input they're putting in their foot is perhaps creating that.
Yeah. So for me, you know, one of the things people need to look at is, you know, look at their bone structure. You know, look at your bone structure, and you know, is your tibia straight? Is it curved? Which way is it curving? Because the way it's set, it may push the foot out. It may push the foot in. It may, you know, and some people, and then, you know, one of the things I think they did a disservice to in the research when they started doing Q angles for women, you know, but they didn't look at the tibia. You see how it's affecting the Q angle. See how it's maybe setting the hips in or setting the hips out. They didn't look at it, you know, and then, you know, the other part too is this here. People really have to think rotation. They really have to think everything's about rotation. People say that, but they don't really buy it, you know, because then they do rotational exercises. Well, every exercise is a rotational exercise if everything's rotational. You can't, you know, but you really have to think that everything's rotational. And so when you start thinking that, you go, okay, let's, you know, which way, if my feet technically, and like I said, I don't call it pronating, but at that point in time, my feet have rolled in.
Rolled in,
you know?
Yep.
My feet have rolled in. What is my tibia doing? Is my tibia yawing or not yawing? So that's another rotational aspect of it, because people forget. One thing about the ankle joint, it allows those two different rotations to happen. The foot wants to roll, the tibia wants to pitch or move back and forth, whatever people want to call it. The ankle allows those two things to happen without interfering with each other. That's what a joint does. It allows movement to happen without interfering with this other thing. And so if you get into that there, you know, and then you put on the ski boots. Now you're in the ski boots, which is basically locked in what? Your ankle. The ankle's basically locked in. There's not much movement coming anymore. So at that point in time, what else is locked in? It's basically locked in your foot. Because it's basically done some things. So what people miss out on here, and this would be too much for people, but I'm gonna say it anyways.
Go for
people miss out that the toes are controlling the show. Because they can still do their thing, and that's part of what arch is for. Arch allows the toes to be very articulate in a sense. You know, and because the arch is on the ground while the toes can do all these other things. But then people say, I want to be on my toes. But once you get on your toes, you can't do anything anymore because there's too much pressure on them. They don't like pressure. Toes don't like pressure. People push off the big toe. No, don't do that. It's too much. It doesn't like pressure. They want to wiggle and move about.
And you're talking like toes, not metatarsal heads.
No, yeah, toes, yeah.
Toes, yes, yeah. No, yeah. Stand on metatarsal heads. Yeah. That's one end of the arch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Toes, you know.
Yeah.
Even, you know, and sometimes I think people need to ask more questions, you know, just like on the structure of the foot. Some people have it, some people don't have it, but a lot of people do have it. But underneath the first metatarsal head is a sesamo bone, maybe one and maybe two. Well, if you understand levers, then if I had a 10-ton rock, if I put a little pedal underneath it, I can move that 10-ton rock now.
Yeah.
So we have these capabilities that people just don't look at. Like, what are these things doing here? You know, people say, it's windlass making. Yeah, it's windlass making, but at the same time, you know, or, you know, think about this way here, that the big toe only has 2 pieces. The other toes have 3 pieces. So you have these 4 toes, or 4 toes, I'm sorry, the other 4 toes flex at a different rate than what the big toe does. But the sesamo bones allows what? Them things to flex at the same rate. So you have these things going on in the structure of the foot that people just totally have just dismissed. And then you start like, no, y'all got to go back and just look at the basic structure of the foot and say, hey, look at nature. Nature has arches. How many times in nature does an arch collapse? When it collapses, it fails. You know, it fails. You know, but if it's underneath something, it's a strong structure. You know, So same thing, levers in nature, all these other things going on. But the biggest thing I think that people, like I said, arch is there to support you. And then it also allows the toes to wiggle. And the toes wiggle, I can do a whole lot of stuff once my toes can wiggle,
And so maybe like a self-exploration type thing for people that have certain shaped feet, rolled in, rolled out, that's the thing. You could encourage them to look in the mirror, like where is their tibia putting load, right? Because where's it? Yeah, because the foot is just going to respond to that input, right? It is as simple as that.
Right. Because the ground's level. The ground's level. So at this point in time,
yeah.
And so where
you've got, and I guess the one perspective is people try and push maybe the load in the tibia back through moving the arch of the foot. Whereas if you just thought about what's above it, adjusted that'll come down through the foot, could come down a completely different way.
Yeah.
You're in control of how much it rolls in forward, but in pitch, your roll, all right. We are completely in control of that.
Right. Yeah. Because I got these, like I said, I got these established joints, even when people talk about, so you go there and then you go up and you see what the hips are doing. But the basic thing is that, people also want to be hip driven when you should be toe driven, toe driven versus hip driven. And that's still a rotational issue. But people have been, distal proximal. We got all these funny things in our head that people, that people have told or something like that, but the biggest thing is, yes, if the foot has rolled, I don't call it pronation, I call it rolled in. The foot has rolled in, check your tibia and see which way it's going. See which way it's going, how it's putting pressure, and then check your Q angles or where your hips at, because that's going to play another part now. If my hips are wide and I got tibias that have turned, all of a sudden, guess what? If they turn different, guess what?
Yeah.
But that's the first part. Yeah, look in the mirror and check your structure out, and then say, and then once you see that, then you go, okay, it's simple as that. Which way do I need to rotate to get what I need? I don't need to fix this. Which way do I need to rotate to get what I need out of this? You are who you are. There's nothing to fix. But if I understand me, then I go, okay, well, maybe I just need to rotate my tibia as I ski. Maybe I need to rotate my toes. Maybe I need to yaw my toes. Maybe I need to pitch my toes. Maybe I just need to do that, and everything's going to work out just the way it should have worked out.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You have to think rotation. If you think linear stuff or whatever, you're going to miss the boat again. But it starts right there. It's that simple. Just look in the mirror and take an assessment. Put your ski boots on. And then, like I said, once again, because ski boots are made straight. So if you got tibias that curve out, you in ski boots, you already got problems. Because what ski boots trying to do now? Push them in. So what's that going to do now?
Yeah.
Roll your feet in. It's just.
Yep. That was me until I figured out that ski boots didn't adjust outwards enough for my legs. I had to do all sorts of crazy stuff, and skiing was more effort. So I'm like, I don't want to be rolled in that much. And so I'd have this A-frame and like this just like didn't feel strong. As soon as the boot got out of my way and I could just stand how my body, my parents' genetics shaped my life, shaped it. I could stand like that, like I'd practiced for however many years. I was good. I knew how to balance.
Right. Well, even this here, and this is something people think about too. A lot of times people talk about motor learning, and you're gonna get a lot of flack back. And a lot of people, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do. A lot of times, what people don't understand is we got one motor learning skill: balance. That's the only thing we got is balance. Everything else is easy. You learn how to grasp things when you were a baby. You learn how to flex your arm, extend your arm. That's not motor learning. You already know how to do this stuff. But if I move my arm and it knocks me off balance, how do I maintain balance and move my arm? How do I maintain balance and move? That's the motor skill. No matter what. If I get on a bike, what's the problem with a bike? Pedaling is easy. Balance is a problem. Once you can balance, what's the problem with surfing? Balance. Once you figure out how to balance, you can walk on it, do this, but you got to figure out how to balance first. That's the skill. Balance.
Yeah. I would say a lot of like people that know your stuff and a lot of the movement exercises play that you have is so centered around balance and rotations to challenge your balance, right? What happens if I rotate this way, pressures here on my foot. Can I still maintain balance or you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's why people struggle to stand on one leg, because the rotation's knocking them off. They don't understand that the rotation's knocking your balance off. You see the foot wiggling, trying to maintain what's going on. But what's happening is the rotations that are happening are knocking you all over the place. You haven't figured out how to control them yet.
Yeah. And it's, you know what? Just spend a bit of time doing it, and like, that's how the body gets. It's not that hard, is it?
Yeah. You do the whole work, figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not that sort of many special exercises. In fact, the more weird you look and crazy, right? Probably the better.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the first time somebody gets on like roller skates. What happens? The wheels start coming, and they try to do what? Once you balance, you can skate, but you got to balance first.
Yeah. Okay.
Leg extension, leg flexion, you already know. I mean, like I said, we only got so many movements: flex and extend, and those are rotational things too. I mean, they're still rotational things. We call them flexion and extension, but they're still rotational things. But we only got so many of them in us. It's not. But if you can't balance and rotate, yeah, you're gonna struggle.
Yeah. So what is the latest sort of iteration? What's the latest version of what you're doing with insoles?
Robots. No, I'm just messing. No, the latest version is just making space. So you have the middle tarsal heads, transverse arch, right behind that area. A lot of people have problems with that area, and so because that's a pressure area, and so we made space for that area. So now that area has space that you actually move around on top of it, instead of people are riding on that area, and we don't want to ride on that area. We want to make space for the area, because that's kind of where the gyroscope of the foot is.
Yes. That's an important part. I think that one of the things I loved about the insole was this gyroscope effect in the ski boot, because I think I was so used to being locked, not able to kind of move my foot. I was stuck flat, balanced flat. It was fine there, but trying to get to the edges, more difficult.
That part of, like, once again, just like the arch needs space, that part of the foot needs space too. And so you're trying to create space for those areas. And normally if you form a transverse arch, it creates space. But then once again, you put cushion up underneath, put stuff underneath there, space is gone. And then people wonder why their foot gets numb, why they got a neuromoma or something like that. Well, because you're kind of squeezing it on that area. It needs space. And once again, we're not talking about much space. We're talking about just a millimeter of room. That's all I need. It works.
Yeah, I must admit, you told me once to take my boot board and the inside edge of the heel, just create a little bit of space there for my heel to, like.
Yeah. And I think that's why people understand how they're moving. Sometimes that's the other thing too, is that, create space. If your foot's trying to, think about this here. If your foot wants to roll in, create space so it can roll in. Don't take the space away, because now it's still rolling in. It's just rolling in against. I mean, that's like I showed somebody on a slant board one time, because they have the slant boards to slant outwards.
Yep.
But the only problem is when you stand on those, guess what your foot's trying to do? So instead of your foot trying to go this way, what does it do? It just rolls harder into the slant. So if you want those to work, you have to reverse them. You have to flip them around and make the slant go inside, and then it works.
Yeah. Hey, now on levers, because I would say I credit you for helping me understand and think of everything in terms of levers, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, levers.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, whatever.
When did you first really dive into understanding this and really applying it and just seeing it everywhere?
Same thing. It's been a long path for me, because even rotations and everything like that. Once I got into levers, I got into rotations. But even like getting into feet, I've been in feet for a while, and it's just a path that you have to get rid of all the other stuff first before it really comes through. You have to get rid of so much stuff that's been stuffed in your head over the years about things that you go, oh no, because to me, like, strength didn't make sense to me. Strength, when you talk about, I have a limited supply of energy. And so why am I trying to use that? I don't get that. Levers make it easier to move things around, which means I don't have to use as much energy. So it didn't make sense. Get stronger. No, why don't I use what I have in the first place? I mean, because levers are multiplying the effect. 1 pound becomes 10 pounds. Instead of trying to put out 10 pounds, no, just do the 1 pound, you get 10 pounds down here somewhere. But at the same time, what people don't understand about movement is this here. With levers, inputs the output, and that's the beauty of levers. Inputs the output, and all that means is this here. If you want to create more something, then you have to create a heavy load upon yourself. It's not coming from any place else. It's coming from yourself. So in a sense, the body is designed to manipulate itself using these levers to put, same thing. Just like when people squat down, I say somebody, and we talked about this the other day, I watch people on a force plate and they're standing straight up and the weight, they balance it out to zero. And as soon as they squat down, the weight starts dropping down. It doesn't go up, it goes down. Why? Because the levers are unloading it. He's been unloaded by the levers. And then, you go, oh, that makes sense though. Levers can work both ways, bi-direction. They can make something heavier, they can make something lighter, And so at that point in time, I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool, But then same thing. If I shift my weight forward, now I get the multiplication of a lever that's zigzag now, like a crowbar, I get an effect now, like, oh, this is how this works, So to me, it was always about, I didn't understand the stress thing, even though I've lifted weights, been in, like some athlete lifted weights, I didn't get it, but nobody never showed me how to use my levers throughout this process. They just said, get stronger. Okay, I'm stronger now. Well, I'm still not better than what I was before, And so, even when we talk about rotation, one way the body puts a greater input on itself is to rotate. And then I'm going to counter rotate against that. So by me rotating one way, that creates an input. Well, now the output is let me rotate against it. Now I get more of something,
Yeah.
But have to realize is that, think about when you're trying to turn skis, you can turn skis with your feet, you can turn with your upper body. But what's happening? Some's turning one way, some turns the other way. And so now the upper body can put a stronger emphasis on this turn because it feels that, oh, I feel the resistance. Now I can get it. But that's what people understand. You are it. When they say put more something into it, it's you. And it's going to come to you through levers, through greater resistance via rotation.
Yeah.
Simple stuff.
Yeah.
You ain't got to go listen for that. Just understand where's the rotation coming from.
Yes. I would say I've found when classic kind of biomechanics, like force diagrams are applied to say like the body of a skier, they simplify it too much to like assume that the body is like a robot that does. Would you agree? It can't create more input. It's just this thing. But what you're saying and definitely what I feel is there are movements, rotation, twisting, this, that creates more input that can go into the ski, go into like the surface you're working on and get more out of it.
Right. And they never measure it. They never, because one of the things they don't do is they don't factor joints in. And that's think about this here. When people talk about like ground reaction force, it's always funny to me. Yeah, because if I was a stick hitting the ground and I would move. But once I put a joint in there, the only thing moving is my foot. The rest of me isn't affected by this ground reaction force anymore. The only thing is the foot because I got a joint down here that's saying, okay, yeah, whatever. But if I want to use that, now all of a sudden as my foot gets pushed up, that's a rotational aspect of it. So what can I do now? I can rotate my tibia forward to counter that. Yeah. Now we're doing something. But just to say, no, I got joints I got to work. I got levers I got to work with.
Yeah. And I think where it gets harder because if you really try and do it the way they teach it, which is you have to do the math, so you have to, like, that's where it gets mind blowing. But if you just leave that aside and just take the simple concept that you're explaining here, you can roughly go, well, that's more or that's less.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which is all you need to, it's like kind of know, like leave that other stuff for like building skyscrapers and
leave it to the engineers, leave it to the scientists, leave it to the researchers. You leave all the math to them guys. Get on the slopes, have at it. Have at it. And same thing, because think about this. You're going downhill at this thing here, right? So what does the body do? Does it lean back? No, it matches the terrain. So you going down. So it changes once again. You're in a rotational, and what I tell people at that point in time is understand we can change the clock. And so what that means is I can take a clock, we look at the clock, it says 12 o'clock, right? Well, if you shift to your 12 o'clock, shift the clock too.
Yeah.
Shift the clock. You can do that. We can just shift the clock. This is your new 12 o'clock. It ain't over here no more. This is your new 12 o'clock. Now, if you're flying a plane, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
We ain't flying planes. We're trying to
Yeah. Yeah. You got to shift that clock so it is relative to the slope you're on at the time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's like, I think that's the other part too about curiosity. I used to crack up, just like this here. Trees on the slope, right?
Yeah.
They grow up. Crazy. It doesn't, the tree is not.
Yeah.
I would ride in the car through the mountain, like, why is the tree straight up? I would think they would be hanging out, nope, straight up. Because the clock doesn't change because the earth clock doesn't change. But we as people, because we move, we can change our clock.
Yes. Yeah. I remember learning a lot from you about reflexes, the importance of those.
Yeah.
And also maybe why it's not intuitive. A lot of people, like, more input seems kind of crazy, like putting your body under more stress to get more out of it. A lot of people are probably moving skiing in a way to try and mitigate that, correct? So they're going in the wrong direction to get more out of it and actually for it to work better. Do you want to speak to reflexes, staying alive?
Yeah, crash the plane. Crash the plane. Let autopilot take over.
Crash the plane. Exactly.
One thing is this here. We try to protect ourselves, and we're poor at it. If you're going for performance, you can't protect yourself. You got, if like I said, I want to go fast, and so matter of fact, you know why I stopped skiing? I was at Heavenly that weekend when Sonny Bono went off, and I stopped after that.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was in Heavenly that weekend, and I was like, ooh, yeah, no, I don't want to go this fast anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Even when I remember, I learned how to speed skate, and they never taught me how to stop. They taught me how to turn. They taught me how to go fast, and so I would just run into the wall, which is okay. I would just when it's time to stop, I just run into the wall because I want brakes, but in skiing you need some brakes. You need some brakes,
Yeah, you do.
So, but the whole thing about it, it becomes to let the senses take over and deal with what you have to deal with, and so that the brain can protect you. Because the brain will see that, like, you might be going a bit too fast for this turn. We're either going to slow you down, or we're going to make you turn this a little bit sharper. Or you might be doing this, so we're going to do this for you. We might be doing this, we're going to do this for you. But let the reflexes work for you. If you find yourself off balance, what's the first thing people do when they find themselves off balance? They try to fix it. What do they do? They fall on their butt.
Yes.
Instead of saying, no, there's like people stumble. Somebody goes into a stumble and then they try to solve it and then they fall. When the body's going to speed you up to fix it, it's going to correct it for you if we let it. But we think we can fix these things and we can't.
Yeah, because I remember this really helped me in terms of upping the level of performance and speed, say for shorter turns and getting to higher edge angles quickly, was trying to, like you said, that crash the plane analogy. I'm trying to get in a position where my reflexes are forced to work.
Right.
Like that's what you're talking about, right? A lot of people kick in before the reflexes can do the kicking in.
Fear drives people most of the time. But you already got to remember that. You got to think about it. You're already doing skiing is not safe. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. Because all this other kind of stuff. But once again, the whole thing about it is, if you let the system work for you, it's gonna protect you way better than you ever could. And like I said, we'll be back to that balance thing. Because what's the body gonna try and do? Make sure you stay upright, which is a balance issue. And so at that point in time, but you got to put in the situations like if we talk about joints, where people don't push their joints into a position to be protected. If you watch a shot putter, people won't be able to see this, but if you watch a shot putter, that shot put, 16-pound ball is on these fingers pushing it back far enough. It pushes back far enough that now the hand can push through the shot put. But if you are worried about your fingers being popped out, dislocated, where are you going to put the shot put at? In your palm. In your palm, now you're going to jack your elbow up because your elbow, see the difference? Is your elbow's going to straighten out. Versus here, the whole system works now. And that's what people don't understand. But how did that happen? I had to put these joints in a situation for that sequence to happen. If I tried to protect it, now I'm going to jack up my elbow because I was trying to protect me. And I think that's what people, you got to push things. But once again, and this is what we talk about, for instance, if I'm working the system correctly, like I'm working toes up, I can do a lot more extreme things than I'm working hip down, because then the system's not working as one. If I twist my hips, but my feet don't know I'm twisting, my knees don't know I'm twisting, then the knees say, okay, well, you're doing something, I'm doing something. Now we get a problem. But if the toes try to lead the path, then everybody knows, like, oh, we're all doing this now. Different story again. And I think that becomes the basis of it too, is sometimes, people have to take a restructure of movement and just sit down and think like, am I skiing with my hips or am I skiing with my toes? And those are two different spectrums again. So if you're skiing with your hips, that's a whole different process again. If you're skiing with your toes, that's a different process, But if you're skiing with your hips, guess what? You'll never go as fast as somebody skiing with their toes. Never. You just can't push it. You can't push to the extreme before you go, ooh, ouch.
Nor deal with rougher, bumpier terrain.
Yeah.
Right. Than the people that work from. Yeah. So and on that, would the shot put thing be similar to just the foot end and the knee, like the elbow?
Yeah. Because same thing,
toes, like foot and toes, and
if I get through what this is the difference about just even movement in general, about what controls what. And so if I'm on my fifth metatarsal, my legs will stay straight. If I'm on the fourth metatarsal, you're talking about, like I said, millimeter movement one way or the other, they're going to flex. Okay, cool. But I don't want to have to flex between these two to do these things. But now if I get back to my arch, if I stand on my arch and let my toes direct me, guess what I can do now? I can also work my fourth and fifth. So I can, I was watching ski video the other day, and what I know is really good skiers, it depends how they're turning. If they making really sharp turns, they flex, turn. If they're making deep, wide turns, they turn, flex. But they can do both of those things at the same time. If you can't do both of those, you're never going to be good at skiing. Never. Because you just can't get in the situation that you need to be in. I mean, like I said, you see these guys, when that guy is sitting on his, like he's making a right turn and his knee is to his chest and his heels to his butt.
Inside knee, yep.
But if you try to do that with your hips, you're going to twist your knee.
Yeah.
With the toes, you can flex and still get into that position. Now all of a sudden the pressure comes behind you, whoop, off you go.
I think I've learned to be able to see this more easily now, because I can feel it. I know what it feels like to be using more the arches, toe driven, and I can see it when people send me videos of their skiing, and I know down in there the foot, the arches is just not working. You can just see it's a dead zone, and there's all this other kind of awkward movement, and they like, you can see them avoiding more input, more pressure, because their body is probably like, we can't deal with this. And some of the time those people are like, yeah, I'm fatigued, I'm sore, I don't feel very athletic. Yeah, makes sense if you that end you're interacting with the ground with is just stuck.
Just pushing up on you, just trying to do some things, Yeah. I think, like, even one of the things I don't have, if I had them, I would do it. But, one of the things people can do to test it out is this here. Just squat down. If you're in your skis, you're in your ski boots, how easy can you squat down? It should be, if you work your toes, you should be able to drop like a rock. If you're not working your toes, your butt, you may hinge, you may do a whole lot of things, but drop straight down, And so, and once again, if you get into problems, what's the best thing to do? Drop to your butt. Drop to your butt. let things slow down, But I think that becomes the thing, is that easy way to test. If your toes are working, you should be able to drop straight down. If they're not working, you're going to do all kinds of other things in order to try and get yourself to squat and drop down.
Yeah. Hey, Darren, you've been really generous with your time. Now, I've read your book, which is pretty new. If people are interested in finding out more from you and understanding the rabbit hole you can go down with the stuff you talk about, which is good. It's not for everyone, but it is really, no, but that's just life. Not everything's for everyone. But can you mention what the book is called?
The book is called Let Me Introduce You. Tells of levers, threesome, and movement. But the thing about the book is looking at movement from a different perspective. And the best thing about this rabbit hole, you actually climb out of. You don't get, you can't get so deep that you can't get out of it. But it covers those things about collisions and why collisions are important. It covers things like levers and rotation, arch of the foot. It's covering these topics in a different way, And so, even like I tell people, if I'm assessing somebody's movement, I'm assessing it based on rotation. That's one of the best ways to assess movement. Am I rotating? Is this, like you said, just see which way things are rotating, which way I got to, which way I got to rotate to make this work for me. So that's the cool thing about the book. Easy read, some exercise in the back to practice on some of these things. One of the terms we use in the book, is pitch, yaw, and roll, which is direction. A lot of people don't understand rotation needs a direction to it. So in the world, people talk about frontal plane, sagittal plane, and transverse plane, which is a viewpoint. It's not a direction. But pitch, yaw, and roll is actually a direction. Yaw to the right, yaw to the left, pitch to the da-da-da, pitch. It gives you which way the thing's moving. And so that's a different perspective too, to actually know which way things are rotating versus viewing things in the sagittal plane, which doesn't say anything except you're just doing it from the side.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It helps tie, because, I've been talking with you for a long time, following you a long time. It helps definitely tie some things together. I enjoyed it. The thing, what I'd really like to do, unfortunately, living on the other side of the world is harder, but is attend one of your clinics. If people are sort of into like experiencing it and being there in person, which I think would be awesome. Are there some clinics, or how do people find out about where's the website for, or the Instagram for finding out about that stuff?
Well, one thing's, like everybody, upgrades come, but if you can't attend in person, we have a couple of options. So the first option is attend in person, always the best. The next option is to drop in on, because we have a video chat you can drop in on if you want to attend that way, or you can view it. You can view it while it's happening live. You just can't participate, or you can just watch the recording later on. So we have a couple of options that you can deal with. If you can't attend, like I said, you can view it while it's happening, or you can drop in and actually, ask questions, interact with us and things like that. So, and whichever one you do is the same price. So it doesn't matter which one you do, it's the same price and everything. So, but yeah, I got a clinic coming up, in July.
Where do they find that one? Where do they find that? On what website?
Biomechanics-movement-summit.com is where all my events are posted now. All my events are posted there. And so.
Including the in-person.
Including in person. Everything's posted there now. Because everything we're doing now is really based on the book. You don't have to read the book to understand, but it's really coming off the book. Even though we have another book, we have 2 more books coming out really soon. One is going to be on running, and one's going to be on the feet, on the foot. So, but it's all based off of this first book and everything like that. So, so we got some more
insoles. The insoles, finding the insoles, because I know some people will be interested in that, and you've changed it. I kind of like a bit more trimmed to fit, and you get several in a pack now.
Yeah, so now we sell them. They can trim them. We still gonna recommend they get a wet trace out, but they don't have to send it to me anymore. You don't have to send it to me anymore. You're gonna get it and match it up. But the biggest thing is they come in a packs of 3 or packs of 5, and so. But Outsole, we call it Outsole154.com is what we call it, because basically taking the outsole and flipped it to the inside. It's just something we do. Yep. And then I'll
put the links in the description so people can find it easily.
So those are 2 places. And then I'm on Instagram. I was on Moving Fast, but Moving Fast was too uncontrollable, and the message wasn't clear anymore. So now I have several different that each have a distinct message, so we're trying to clean it up. Each of them has because people, like I had almost 10,000 posts because I never delete a post. I put it up, and so I had almost 10,000 posts on different subjects, and you don't get everything every day on Instagram. So you may see me one day talking about insoles or arch of the foot, then the next day you see me talking about rotation, then the next day you see me talking about levers, and you think like this dude all over the place. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Instagram's all over the place. I'm where I need to be, So now we have a few of them, but the main one is called 9 Brains. IX Brains is the main
IX
one.
Brain.
Yeah. And so that's the main one that I deal with now and stuff like that. And that's just coming from a place of curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, why is the tree straight up when the thing's on the slope? Curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's how I came across you. Curiosity, and then discovered a whole lot more. And it's everything, I must say, has helped. And what I enjoy about your approach is you don't give me answers. You give me clues. You make me think, and I'm like, and then do you know, like I think I told you, like 10:23 p.m. shower the other night. I was like, oh, far out. Now I know what he talks about, like the calf twisting the heel. And you'd said before, you need to delete like some of the stuff you knew about prior, because I was like, what is, he's on crack? You can't, it doesn't, like it's like it raises the heel, like but then yeah. Anyway, so I enjoy that because I enjoy thinking and thinking for myself and trying it out and coming to my own conclusions. So I appreciate that. That's the influence you've had on me, and I think the learning experience is more powerful. I have to say that way.
Yeah, and that's what I always try to do. And I think if people think I'm talking riddles and clues and prep, but most of the things that we're talking about, it's in front of you. If you just look, you know. And so that's all I'm asking people to do is be curious. You know, like even on Nine Brains now, our main thing is to be curious and ask questions. Be curious, ask questions. And why we call it Nine Brains? Because it's octopus. Octopus has 9 brains. Very curious creature. It will sit there and watch you and watch you and watch you. You know, if you put a container that's closed, it will figure out how to get it. It's a very curious. It's solving for itself, and that's what we got to do as people. Because, like I said, even I can talk to you one-on-one, but you go on the slope. I'm not on the slope with you. Good luck. You got to be able to think yourself through the situation. So then the reflex, like, oh, let my reflexes help me out in this situation because I don't want to get them. You know, but I think that's the thing that like I said, not for everyone, because I don't give direct. I may know the answer, but I'm not gonna give it to you. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yep. So like, I think the learning is the more powerful of the situation, that we give you some information like 1, and then we put 2 over here. You gotta figure out where the other 1 come from. We told you 1 and 2. You gotta figure out where, did he subtract it for something? Did he add what? You gotta figure that part out. But that's the fun part.
You totally. And like you said, it has made it so that when I go out skiing, I explore, be curious, go one way, go, not getting anywhere that way, come back, go, instead of it's this, Tom, 2 + 2 is 4, just keep doing 2 + 2, instead of how can you get to 4?
Right.
Given these principles. So I appreciate, thanks for that.
Yeah, because I remember okay. I was gonna say, well, I was gonna say,
go ahead.
Mogul skiing and how we was watching that, and we was like, there's a different beast here. You got and we were watching how some of the better ones, they were actually using the ski poles to help take some of that blow before they got into it, and the other ones, they wasn't using the ski pole and they were just getting jammed up. And it's like, see, them collisions, you gotta understand them, how those collisions work, So yeah, but it's the power is in the learning. Yes.
I think so many people now in moguls, what is the problem is they are definitely not using their toes. They are not using their arches. They're like just slamming flat-footed.
Yeah.
And you try and jump off anything flat-footed and see how that goes for you.
Yeah.
And it is just not. But it's hard because people can't conceptualize that there's this action going on inside of this ski boot. There's just the environment, freeze time, freeze the ski and the boot where it is, and now just adjust your body and foot in there to land on that exactly how you would out of ski boots. Problem solved. Exactly.
Yeah. However, whatever we've done outside needs to do inside. Yeah, it does become dead because you put something on it, But and even like when people, like I said, people listen to this podcast, and some people will, go, what do you mean rotate the heel with the calf? But once again, if you look at the structure of the leg, look at the structure of the gastroc, structure of the soleus, you'll figure it out. Like, I was talking to somebody today, and we were talking about weightlifters, about how really good weightlifters, it's a gastroc soleus issue. It's not a quad issue. The quad is to help you decelerate the weight down, but to get it up, it's because it's a backwards rotation, and the calf is really strong at rotating the tibia backwards. It's not strong at lifting the heel off the ground. It's strong at pulling backwards. And when they pull, that's why you can jump high. If you got good calves, you can, but it's a backwards rotation. But if you like that, so if you look at that and you go, oh, where's the tibia? Oh, where's the sole? It attaches over here, it kind of attaches over here, and it's a pinnate muscle, and it's at an angle. Oh, rotation. But you have to be willing to just look at it with a clear view and go, oh, this is what, versus what somebody said because they read a book and cut a cadaver up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, but
yeah. We're going to leave it there. Thanks so much, Adarian.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, man.